disgruntled Conservative catnip in the studio. Richard Tice, leader of the Reform Party, and my GB News colleague joins me now.
I've been described as all sorts of things, but never catnip before.
Catnip for disgruntled Tories. Well, you are kind of, aren't you? I mean, I wrote an article about Keir Starmer.
I'm the solution, I'm the saviour, not the catnip.
Well, let's see if you are the saviour. Indeed, I wrote an article about Keir Starmer, and lots of people were saying, don't vote Tory, vote Reform. So just run us through, where are you at? What are your numbers like? Both kind of in polling terms, but also membership.
So this was a significant week, and I'm very grateful to the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, for everything he's doing for reform. We should put him on a commission deal. Our members have soared again to record numbers this week.
Record numbers is what, Richard?
We don't give the exact number.
Oh, come on now.
No, but I can tell you it's record number. I know we are.
Just whisper it, don't worry.
No, I know, but no, I'm not going to give a running commentary.
Well, just generally.
But generally...
hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands?
This is the first week where we've had double digits in the polls.
I thought you were going to say double digits in the membership. No.
4 separate polls have had us at 10 or 11%, only 8 points
10
behind...
10 or 11%?
That's the
good,
first
isn't
time.
It? Yeah.
Only 8 points behind the Conservative Party. And I think we are seeing, essentially, the dying days, potentially the last ever majority Conservative government in my lifetime. They are toxic. People have had enough.
OK, having said that, if people vote for you, they're just going to split the vote on the right, and you're going to just let Labour walk straight into number 10.
It's completely the opposite. Only Reform now, Camilla, can stop Labour. The Tories have had their chance. We did the right thing back in 19. We stood aside. We let them get a big seat majority. They've blown it. They've messed up. They should do the right thing. They should stand aside.
That's Richard, don't be ridiculous. That's not going to happen.
Those who say we're going to split the vote on the right, if you're worried about it, you can't vote for failure. You can't reward failure.
Are you seriously suggesting that Tory MPs should stand aside for reform?
Well, they're all terrified that they're going to lose their seats. Right.
But they're not going to do
that. They all know they're going to lose.
Okay.
The brand is toxic. If they want to stop Labour, they should do the right thing as we did back in 19. I can beat Keir Starmer. They can't.
Can you beat Keir Starmer? You've got
head,
10 or 11 in the polls, and the latest opinion puts, I think, the Tories on about 26. So at the moment, you can't beat Keir Starmer. The Conservatives, if they improve things, if they become more low tax and a bit more Tory...
They're going the opposite direction. They're going down. The brand is going down. It's toxic. We're the only party that has a serious plan to stop the boats, right? The whole Rwanda plan has completely failed.
Would you scrap Rwanda?
It was never going to work. So scrap Rwanda, stop wasting time, money and effort. The only thing you can do is what Australia did. You pick up, you safely take back. We're entitled to do that under international treaties. That's the only thing that will stop the boats. Labour won't stop the boats, only Reform UK.
OK, but then I suppose if you're going to use the Australia example, you do need to have an overseas processing area like Nauru or somewhere like that.
And we've got plenty of British overseas territories.
So we shouldn't have chosen Rwanda, we should have chosen... Where would you have chosen?
Well, I'm not going to say where I'd chosen.
Oh, go on.
No, but we've got overseas territories, and that's what we should do.
Hang on, you need to put a bit of meat on the bones here, because you're saying you can solve immigration. So tell us, where would you process people, if not Rwanda?
I would put them in a British overseas territory.
Which one?
I will come back to that.
Ascension Island?
There's a variety of places we could put them that are in our control.
You must tell us, because immigration is a key plank of what reform...
We're the only people with a critical plan. You've got to leave the ECHR.
So where would you process people,
pick up
if not
and
Rwanda?
Take back. Well, do you know, the best thing to do is process them very quickly here. Actually, 20 years ago, they would be processed in 2 weeks. The appeal took a third week, and they were deported.
Ascension
That's the smart
Island,
things.
St Helena.
There's a variety of places.
Associated with Napoleon, there's a film out?
Let's not go into that detail.
Why can't we go into the detail?
Because the real thing is process them promptly, rapidly, in weeks, not years, here in the UK, and then deport them. That's what's the existing law. That's what we should do. And you've got to stop the pull factor, the magnet factor, by picking up and taking back, using existing international treaties. The other point about immigration is that the Tories have basically opened the borders. The Labour Party want even more open border mass immigration. We believe the only net zero we want is net zero lawful immigration. One in, one out.
I get that.
About 400,000 people leave the country every year. We could welcome high-qualified, high-skilled immigrants to that sort of number who will add value to the economy.
Would you put a cap on legal migration, and what would it be?
It would be one in, one out. Over a 3 to 5 year period, it would be about...
What if people say that's going to cause enormous labour shortages?
It won't. What it will do is it will increase the wages of British workers, and it'll get people back to work. It'll make work pay.
If businesses can afford to pay them more, because at the moment they're having to pay 6% more in corporation tax.
Yes,
what would you do with corporation tax?
Well, we've always said you should cut corporation tax, take it straight back to 19. The one good thing George Osborne did, bless him, was actually have a direction of travel to 17. We should have been heading towards 15. This Prime Minister, under his watch, he sent it back to 25%. It's a disaster. You've got to cut the vast amount of wasteful government spending across all departments, across local authorities.
How would you do that in practice, though?
In practice, it's very simple. You say to everybody, in the same way that you do in business, and indeed we're doing with our household budgets, right, I need to save £5 in 100, right, but not touch frontline services. And in business, what you say, do that or you're fired.
I know, but who would you bring in to do it? Are you talking about bringing the private sector in?
You've actually got to bring in successful people from the private sector to force this through.
Do they want to work in politics, though, these successful people?
I think if they were working with successful people with a track record, with a clear vision, clear conviction, I think absolutely, like you have in America. It's part of your civic duty to come and help the country. The country's broken under the Tories. Labour were bankrupt. Britain, only the Reform UK policies will save Britain. I
just want to return to this issue of British overseas territories. Why are you reluctant to name any? I don't quite understand it.
Because that's not... The key thing is, people want to know, is that you'll process them quickly, wherever it is.
I know, but you haven't decided on where they could do it.
The best place is in Britain. Do it in 2 weeks in Britain.
OK. Can I say something which you might not like, but I'm going to say it anyway?
It's not the first time.
But reform isn't going to make the headway it needs without Nigel Farage at the helm, is it?
Look, the more help, the better. He's temporarily engaged elsewhere, as we know.
I know, he could be eating kangaroo testicles as we speak.
I've always said, Nigel's a huge figure and can help a lot.
So is he going to come back and help? Why is he in the jungle? Is he doing it for electoral success come 2024, do you think?
He's very clear. He's doing it so that more young people can actually see and understand Nigel, the personality, as opposed to what they've been sort of misinformed in the press that doesn't like him.
I mean, I don't want to besmirch your very strong leadership of this party, but you need him to be leading it, don't you?
No, what I say is the more help, the better. I've always said, if Nigel wants to come back into UK politics...
As leader?
Well, look, let's not focus on titles, let's focus on action.
Well, it's important, isn't it? Because he was so successful with the Brexit Party.
And the real key thing is that the more people who help, the more people who hear about us, the better. But Nigel's concern is first past the post. And he and I are completely committed to getting proportional representation.
I know, trouble is, though, it's not as sexy to campaign on first past the post as it is Brexit. People don't understand it.
And the thing about Brexit is that, yes, we've technically left, but we haven't got Brexit done properly, pragmatically. They haven't taken advantage of the opportunity. If you're going to do a job, do it properly. All the things we stand for, cutting taxes, cutting daft regs, cutting immigration, these are the things that people who voted Brexit, they want, and they know that only reform will do.
Do you think it was a mistake to call the party reform, reclaim, respect? There's loads of parties beginning with R. Why don't you just stick to the Brexit party? Because it
does what it says on the tin. The country needs reforming in so many ways.
Right.
And I love it when Keir Starmer says, people may not like to hear this, but the NHS needs reform. Absolutely, the NHS does need reform,
needs
UK.
reform.
And frankly, the country needs reform.
Does the reform need Suella Braverman? Have you had any conversations? Would you have conversations with the former Home Secretary to bring her across?
I'm not going to give a running commentary on discussions.
Oh, go on.
With a number of... I know,
you're good at giving running commentaries. You're on the telly.
It doesn't matter. You can't give a running commentary. But let's be clear. A number of Tory MPs are very, very unhappy with the direction of travel of the Tory party, quite rightly.
Although the trouble is Nigel Farage thinks that he might want to join the Conservative Party at some point in the future. Never say never. If the next general election they reset and realign, then I might. That's a bit worrying for reform, isn't it?
He loves causing mischief. It's what he's brilliant at.
He's a mischief maker. That's the answer.
And the reality is, look, he was on an undercover mission in plain sight at the Tory conference, but he has confirmed that reform is the party that he's committed to. He's honorary president, and look, he's got lots of commitments, but the more help he can give us, the better, frankly.
What Tory MP would you like to welcome across? If not Suella, then whom? Because you might need a bit more ballast.
The ones that believe in our values...
Well, who would you think? I mean, if Suella isn't perfect for reform,
I'm not going to give a running commentary, but there are a number who believe in our values with conviction. What they need is the courage to recognise that the Tory brand is toxic, it's finished, it's over. And if they believe in the country, they should come to reform, those that believe in our values, and we can help save Britain.
Richard Tice, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.